Let me tell you how I saw this movie. Not in the IMAX. I tried. Getting an IMAX ticket for the Odyssey right now is harder than getting a Hamilton ticket was in 2016. I mean, tickets in the IMAX are sold out, and what's so crazy and awesome is that actually IMAX has extended the Odyssey run all the way through September. So I saw it in a regular theater, on a regular screen, and it still completely blew me away. Meanwhile, there have been a lot of stories of people who are watching the new Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man Brand New Day, and when they are watching it in their theater room next door, they are saying that they can hear the insanity that is Christopher Nolan's sound design for this movie, a mix that will make your ears bleed at some points. And that sound would be coming through the walls while they're trying to watch their own movie. And that might be the most Christopher Nolan thing I've ever heard. He made a movie so loud, it doesn't stay in its own room. And here's the part that nobody remembers now that this movie, The Odyssey, is a phenomenon. This movie was the biggest gamble of Christopher Nolan's career. For most of this year, nobody knew if it would actually work, but we're going to come back to that. Here's where I land right now on this movie. No spoilers, but my rating is an 8.5. It's at least an 8.5. I would recommend that to see it on the biggest screen you can, well, whichever you can actually get a ticket for. And if that's a regular screen, go anyway. I'm telling you, it is absolutely still worth it, and you're going to have a great time. Do you need to have read The Odyssey? No, there is zero homework here. Here's the whole setup in 30 seconds, spoiler-free, as it's shown in the trailers. You have a war hero who has been gone 20 years, 10 years fighting a war, and then 10 lost trying to get back to the wife and son that he left behind. That's it. You know that, and you're good to go. But there's a second question hanging over this movie, whether the most expensive gamble of Nolan's life actually paid off. And I'll get there. First, you need to understand what he risked. Nolan and Universal Pictures spent almost $400 million on a movie based on a poem. No superheroes, no sequel, no toys to sell, a story older than the Bible. And when they, Universal, greenlit it, nobody, not Universal, not the theater chains, maybe not even Nolan, knew if audiences would show up. And we really have to take a moment here to understand what happens if a gargantuan movie like this fails. If this flops, studios are probably going to be hearing, because they're going to be saying it, no more original epics, only sequels, only reboots, only IP. I mean, he's risking the whole argument that original movies can still be events. So in this case, his name is the collateral. There are maybe a handful of directors out there like him where the name alone sells the ticket. He has built up this reputation, 25 years of this reputation that's on the line and on the table for him. And here are some of the numbers. $250 million for the production budget, that is sourced from Puck Media News. Everything else out of that $400 million total from marketing. Shot entirely on IMAX 70mm film, 2 million plus feet of film, and a lot of comparisons and parallels to James Cameron and Avatar, this whole idea of building the movie around a format so big that you have to leave the house. And another great thing is that Nolan keeps everything as practical as possible. Of course, there are some visual effects and special effects, but he is not right now on this bandwagon of cost cutting while studios are chasing the whole AI pipeline. He's an analog man betting on analog money in a digital world. And on that note, here's what tells you how much faith this man commands. The biggest movie stars alive, people who get script approval, top dollar paychecks, a trailer the size of a studio apartment, gave all of it up. They took pay cuts, they signed the contract, and weren't even allowed to read the script first. They boarded the ship without knowing where it was going. They have that much faith in this man, and they just want to be part of a Christopher Nolan movie. And just listen to who Christopher Nolan got on board to be the cast of this film. Matt Damon, Anne Hathaway, Robert Pattinson, Zendaya, Tom Holland. Are you kidding me? Zendaya and Tom Holland are also not just in this movie, but they are also in the other big summer July blockbuster, Spider-Man Brand New Day. Jon Bernthal, by the way, is in both of these movies as well. And it's interesting to see that the cast of Christopher Nolan movies, they are pretty loyal to him, and they are repeat actors in his films. Let's take a look at this count. Anne Hathaway has been in Dark Knight Rises, Interstellar, and now The Odyssey. Damon has been in Interstellar, Oppenheimer, and The Odyssey. Robert Pattinson has been in Tenet, and now this movie, The Odyssey. Elliot Page has been in Inception and The Odyssey. Himesh Patel has been in Tenet and now The Odyssey. And then Benny Sadfi also has been in Oppenheimer and now The Odyssey. Even Travis Scott did the Tenet soundtrack and is also in this movie, The Odyssey, as well. And the loyalty to Christopher Nolan is not just in the cast, but also with the crew. Let's check this out. So Van Hoytema, who is the director of photography, it's the 5th film that they've worked on together. Ludwig Göransson, how many times they've done scores together. Jennifer Lame, his Oscar-winning editor who won the Oscar for Oppenheimer. Emma Thomas, the legendary producer, and his wife, they have worked together from day one. So what did signing that blind contract actually get them? Let me paint the picture of the shoot for you. 8 countries. Morocco, Greece, Italy, Scotland, Iceland, Western Sahara, Malta, plus a Los Angeles soundstage. Real ships, real deserts, the biggest cameras in the industry hauled to the middle of nowhere. Hardly any green screen. Everyone suffered for this on purpose. Weather, water, heat, before anyone knew it would work. That's what you admire, the trying. For this movie, everyone involved in the production, they went to hell and back to make it. Something else to keep in mind here, the IMAX 70mm prints physically can't run much past 3 hours. The film stock itself shaped the runtime of the movie, which was 2 hours and 50 minutes. So strip away the money and the cameras for a second. What's this movie actually about? A man trying to get home, a wife who waited 20 years not knowing if he's alive, a son who grew up without a father. Watching this movie, I did not expect a Greek myth to completely have me locked in and to tell a story in a way that stays with me and makes me think about it and is relevant to ideas and themes and stories that are happening today. There's also a really cool tension inside this movie that really makes it special. Nolan is cinema's ultimate control freak. Precision, engineering, every frame planned. And he chose the least controllable story ever told. A man lost at sea, at the mercy of the gods, for 10 years. The most controlled director alive made a story about surrendering control. His lifelong obsessions, time, memory, a man haunted by the past, maps onto this Odysseus story perfectly. He's been rehearsing for a movie like this his whole career. Oh, and listener, Nolan stumbled upon something really special with an actor in this movie. Samantha Morton is in this movie. That's all you're going to get from me, but I'll tell you what happened in my theater. From the moment she appeared, and for her entire scene, the entire room was locked in, absolutely still. Nobody touched their food. You know her as Agatha, the precog in Minority Report, floating in the water, seeing the future. You may also know her as the villainous leader of the Whisperers in the series The Walking Dead, and she reminds you here, again, why she is one of the best actors working today. And what does she do in this movie? I refuse to say. You'll know the moment when you're in it, and I promise you, listener, you will not forget it. So, $400 million on a movie based on a poem. Everyone's career on the table, 2 years of secrecy and suffering. The question, did it work? It made the entire $250 million production budget back in 3 days. Biggest global opening of Nolan's career, bigger than the Batman movies, bigger than Oppenheimer. And to date, it has passed $1.1 billion global box office. For an ancient war epic with no franchise, in 2026, the second week dropped just 27%. Normal blockbusters fall 50 to 70%. People are going back and seeing this movie again. So was the spending reckless or visionary? I'm going to separate two things here. Universal Pictures and Christopher Nolan. If you had me talk about Christopher Nolan, you'd have a very angry rant that would go well over an hour at least. So I'm going to leave that part aside. I want to talk about Universal. They took a risk. There was no original IP here. There was an existing story, for sure, that we are all familiar with Homer, the Iliad, and this character of Odysseus. But this big of a production, it was a gamble. And they took a chance, and for that, I am grateful for them. What I would like to also see, though, is that while I'm happy that movies like The Odyssey and Spider-Man Brand New Day are doing really well, I want more movies like Obsession, Backrooms, more indie films like Tony coming up about Anthony Bourdain, things like that, the mid-budget and small-size film. I am glad that you all are taking risks, but help these small filmmakers too. help the emerging voices land as well. All right, now that I got that off of my chest, let's come back to the Odyssey and talk about the sound. In particular, let's start with the music. The music is again composed by Ludwig Göransson, and it's fantastic. It comes to life. It makes this movie have an energy and a pulse completely throughout it. But it does follow the same kind of sound design insanity of a Christopher Nolan movie, meaning I don't understand how the volume levels of this type of movie work, so you are going to miss some lines of dialogue. That just happens with a Christopher Nolan movie, and it doesn't matter if you're in the middle of the theater, in the back of the theater, just let the sound wash over you. Don't try to fight it. That's kind of a pointless endeavor. But here's the thing that I keep coming back to. This is a movie about a man who's been gone 20 years. I'm repeating this part again. 10 years at war, 10 more just trying to get back home. And Christopher Nolan spends $400 million making it for one reason, to give you a reason to come home too. By home, I'm talking about the movie theaters, back to a dark room full of strangers where his sound design bleeds through the walls into other people's movies. And a whole audience goes still at the exact same thrilling moments in this epic. The movie is the argument. The whole film hangs on one question, whether Odysseus makes it back home, and it leaves you holding the same question about yourself, whether we make it back home to the movie theaters too. And one thing for movie theater companies to keep in mind when they are releasing a Christopher Nolan movie, you are on his schedule. How do I know that? Because as I had mentioned before, IMAX has extended their Odyssey screenings through September, and those screenings are still selling out. So if you land one, congratulations, you got the Hamilton ticket. If you're seeing it on regular screens, there's about 3 or 4 months it's going to be out. And here's the kicker. There is no streaming date announced yet, no digital date, no home release. Nothing has been announced yet, which is really, really odd. Most movies flip to your living room for home video on demand after about 45 days now. Nolan movies, they don't do that. Universal, they're not interested. His last movie, Oppenheimer, took 123 days to leave theaters. And I would not be surprised if Universal holds this one to Thanksgiving or Christmas or maybe even 2027. So if your plan is to wait for the couch, you might be waiting a very long time. Don't hold out for the perfect screen either. I couldn't get the IMAX screen. The regular theater was still amazing. Make the trip back home to the movie theater I'm talking about on whatever ship will take you, whatever screen you can see it on, just do it. I promise you're going to have a great time. A quick detail on that, it will be on 41 IMAX 70mm screens worldwide, and that has been extended through to September 17th. You're also likely to see a 70mm award season return in 2027 for this movie. It'll be back in the theaters. This is just like what Universal did with Oppenheimer. So if you couldn't see it in IMAX now, you'll likely be able to see it then. And just another detail you should know, Universal's 2026 policy for how many days a movie will be in the theaters is a 5-weekend theatrical minimum, 32 days. And then that's going to widen to 7 weekends or 45 days in 2027. But one thing to also remember is that with Christopher Nolan, Universal treats him like a very, very special circumstance and probably will get an even longer rollout in the movie theaters. Nolan's last movie, Oppenheimer, took about 123 days until it was released on digital. And projections for this one put that around mid-November and onto the streaming platform of Peacock around early 2027. But these are projections. Again, there has been no official information released. The Odyssey is absolutely an amazing 2026 movie event. It is fantastic. I give it an 8.5 out of 10. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to leave a review wherever you get your podcasts. It does help the program. The Odyssey is playing in theaters now. I do hope you check it out. Let me know what you think. And as always, thank you for listening.